This is a strange town, full of all kinds of rich women, but the strange thing is that they all have a young and handsome gardener. On the first day that Carl's family moved to this town, the rich neighbor came to visit. This is a single woman in her 30s, and it is said that she is a strong businesswoman. She fell in love with Carl at first sight when she came to the house. So she asked Carl's mother to let Carl help to repair the lawn, and she would give a generous reward. The mother was very happy when she heard it. Carl was worried that he had no money to invite the girl to dinner, so he readily agreed. The next day, she came to the woman's house, but the woman did not want her to work at all, and poured wine for Carl. The two chatted happily, and learned through the chat that the woman's name was Sister Jean, who was an intermediary specializing in introducing part-time jobs. And she also had a jewelry design company. Carl was very curious about such a strong woman who exuded mature charm. Sister Jean accidentally spilled wine on her body and asked Carl to help undress, and the atmosphere gradually became blurred and ambiguous. I won't waste time talking about what happened next because it's not good to look at. After the job was done, Sister Jean was very satisfied and gave Carl a lawn repairing client and prepaid her part of the fee. She never thought that it was this woman in front of her that led her to a road of no return. On the way back, she saw a handsome neighbor who was repairing the lawn. Carl took the initiative to greet him, and the two chatted with each other for a few words. At this time, an elderly woman asked her to go back. Seeing the intimate actions of the two, Carl suspected that the relationship between the two was unusual. But the huge age gap also dispelled Carl's suspicion. The next morning, the news on TV attracted Carl. The handsome neighbor he met yesterday was dead. Carl felt very strange. Although he had only met this friend once, he didn't expect him to be killed so soon. Carl came to the customer's house as promised and brought tools. He took off his shirt and was ready to work, but the woman stopped him and invited him to come up for a drink. Carl felt very strange, but the woman came to his side and touched his abdominal muscles with her hands, which made Carl feel very disgusted. After all, the woman in front of him could be his mother. Carl was so scared that he ran away. He angrily found Sister Jean and asked her what the so-called lawn mowing was for, and why the woman would touch him. Sister Jean then told him that this town is basically full of billionaires. Their men are very busy and not at home all year round, and these rich women will find some handsome boys to be friends. Sister Jean is their introducer. Carl, who learned the truth, directly refused the job, but Sister Jean came to visit her home a few days later. Carl wanted to borrow his mother's car to go out and play. Hearing this, Sister Jean gave him a car directly, saying that this was her dead husband's car, and now no one is driving it, and it has been gathering dust. Carl never thought that he would have a car in this way, but seeing that his mother couldn't even pay for living expenses, Carl was really embarrassed to ask him for insurance and maintenance fees for the car. He found Sister Jean again and wanted to work for her. Sister Jean was very welcoming and specially selected a beautiful rich woman for him. When the rich woman saw Carl's handsome face and perfect figure, she was instantly attracted and couldn't wait to talk to Carl about her heart. Carl didn't expect that he would get such a generous reward. He also bought gifts for his mother and sister. His mother didn't understand why he could earn so much just by mowing the lawn, but he didn't doubt anything, because Carl was a newcomer. With his handsome face and perfect figure, he was very popular among the local rich women. The busy social business also made his performance drop like a cliff, and his physical strength was not as good as before. The girl who had a good impression of him was now indifferent to him. When Carl asked him why, the girl said, "Don't think I don't know what you do." Carl wanted to explain something, but he received a text message from Sister Jean, and his work came again. In the evening, he came to the rich woman's house as scheduled. Carl and the rich woman were having fun, but an accident happened at this time. The rich woman's husband went home early. The rich woman hurriedly asked Carl to hide in the closet. Seeing the old man coming back, he brought a pistol with him. Carl was so scared that he dared not breathe. Seeing the old man and the rich woman having a hot relationship, Carl took this opportunity to escape quickly. But the more nervous he was, the easier it was to make mistakes. He actually hung his belt in the house. His mother found that Carl came back so late again, and because his grades were not up to standard, she questioned him what he had been doing recently. The two had a big quarrel because of their disagreement. The next day, Carl was angry and found Sister Jean, asking why she introduced such a dangerous job to him. The other party's husband had a gun, and he didn't want to be a nuclear prisoner. In addition, his mother's discipline was strict recently, so he asked Sister Jean to quit. But this job was not something he could quit just because he wanted to. Carl wanted to quit the service industry, but was threatened with a knife by Sister Jean's men. If he quit, not only he would be in trouble, but his family would also be in trouble. Carl had to go back to his old business. He had an affair with a rich woman before, and when he ran away, he hung his belt in the rich woman's house. That was why her husband knew that the rich woman had cheated on him, and now her husband asked for a divorce. The rich woman angrily found Sister Jean to argue, and she put all the faults on Carl, thinking it was Carl's mistake. Her husband wants her to lose everything. He wants Sister Jean to compensate him for his loss, or else he will let the whole town know that Sister Jean is a scumbag. Sister Jean is afraid of making things worse, so she asks him to go back first, and will give him 1 million in the evening. The rich woman is very happy to see that Sister Jean's men have come to deliver money. Seeing that the man is her old lover, she wants to have something with her, but the man does not disappoint her. The rich woman turns around and wants to check the money inside, but it is waste paper. In fact, the man was sent by Sister Jean to silence her. During the struggle, the rich woman shot the man with a gun, and the man killed the rich woman with all his strength. The injured man hurriedly fled to Sister Jean's house, hoping to save himself through her connections. But Sister Jean thought he was incompetent and watched him bleed to death. Carl's rebellious mood is getting stronger and stronger, and he dare not confront Sister Jean directly. Seeing that Sister Jean's men and the rich woman died in the news, he thinks it must be Sister Jean who did it, because the handsome neighbor who died before was also Sister Jean's employee. After learning that the handsome neighbor also died after quitting, Sister Jean found him another client at night, so Carl wanted to take this opportunity to steal his diary. However, what he didn't expect was that the mayor of the town came at night. It turned out that Sister Jean's backer was the mayor, and he was a complete pervert. While he was chatting with Sister Jean, Carl secretly came to the bedroom. Seeing the props on the bed, he felt sick, but the mayor couldn't wait any longer and followed Carl to the bedroom. Carl found the diary, which was also filled with all the transactions. The mayor came to rob, but how could he be Carl's opponent? He was knocked down in 2 moves. Sister Jean seemed to have discovered something and waited for Carl to come out. Facing the gun in Sister Jean's hand, he had to be tied up obediently. Mother and sister saw Carl went to Sister Jean's house and never came out. The mayor left in a hurry. Sister Jean also secretly went to the garage. Thinking of the recent continuous murders in the neighborhood, and seeing the rich woman having an affair with her men at Sister Jean's house, she suspected that Sister Jean had some unspeakable secrets. The mother secretly came to Sister Jean's house and found that her son was tied up. Sister Jean also came back with a gun. When the sister saw Sister Jean holding a gun, she immediately called her mother, but the mother did not bring her mobile phone. The mother heard the sound outside and hurriedly hid. When Sister Jean was about to kill Carl, the mother attacked Sister Jean and knocked her gun away, but the thin mother was no match for Sister Jean. Seeing that the mother was about to be strangled to death, Carl kicked the screwdriver on the ground. The mother picked it up and stabbed Sister Jean. She hurriedly untied her son and prepared to escape, But Sister Jean also picked up the gun at this time. At the critical moment, the sister picked up the gun and shot Sister Jean to death. A few months later, Carl became a new intermediary without telling his mother. Some things are difficult to quit once they are in the industry. Never challenge the law. When you regret it, it is not only yourself who is hurt,